Hey, we have Jamie Engel from DePaul University back with us. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you could make it. And if you haven't checked out episode 50 of the podcast, where I got to interview Jamie, it's a fun time. And this time, Jamie is joining me so we can interview a buddy of ours, and that is Chris Kirchhof. And Chris is the director of undergraduate recruitment and transfer student services for the Swanson School of Engineering at the University of Pittsburgh. Chris has worked at Pitt since 2009, serving as an academic advisor for both freshmen and transfer students. Chris also has served as a program assistant for engineering study abroad experiences for first-year students. Chris has served in various leadership roles in NACADA, serving as Western Pennsylvania liaison, advising transfer students, advising community chair, 2017 Region 2 conference co-chair, region chair, and currently as a regional division representative on the NACADA Council. Chris holds a bachelor's degree in history education from Providence College and a master's degree in educational leadership from Central Connecticut State University. Chris, how's it going?
Oh, good. It's weird to hear my life kind of flash before my eyes there. So it's very cool. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and funny thing, I was going to say welcome to the podcast, but since this is now appearance number 3, welcome back. And this is the first time we actually get to interview you to get to know you better. The other 2 times, it's more talking about NACADA region conferences, so I'm glad we got to make this work out.
Very cool. Yeah, I have to hold up the your recurring guest status here. So it's...
Well, yeah, third time's a charm. So we get to learn about the charming man behind region division rep. And I definitely, if I can dive on in, Matt.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Matt and I are both new region chairs and odd region chairs, 5 and 9. And so I know we'll both have some questions probably for you about your experiences in that area. But with your bio, I was interested by that mention of supervising, I believe it was some study abroad programs for first year students. My biggest regret in college was not studying abroad for a full semester. Have you studied abroad? And whether or not you have, how did you get into that position?
So I actually never studied abroad in my undergrad, and that was one of my regrets as well. And then in this position at the university, we have some programs that are geared towards first-year students. And working as an academic advisor, they asked me one time if I was able to fill in for someone who recently got pregnant on short notice to a trip. And that was in 2011. We took 24 engineering students and business students down to Viña del Mar, Chile. And we had a really good time just kind of learning about the country and the engineering principles there. So when the opportunity came back to take a class in 2019 to China, I jumped at it, and we were supposed to go, but the pandemic, put things on hold. And so, excitingly enough, going again in May, we're taking some business students to Cyprus, which is a place that I never thought I would go in my life. But we're really excited about it because it's one of those experiences where for students, it's their first time sometimes traveling abroad, but definitely in an educational setting. And just getting to see those little aha moments that they have of, we're not in Kansas anymore. It's really cool. And it really just helps to, build a bond with students, but also help kind of shape how they're going to attack the next, 3 or 4 years of their education, because there's a lot of world out there to explore. So being able to look at both business and engineering and how, we're much larger than this one little city or this country is really cool.
Yeah, and I know sometimes when students ask, should I do study abroad? And, I tell them, it's probably different at other institutions, but, maybe you can use your financial aid to help cover with some of those fees. But sometimes they're like, well, I'll just do it after I graduate. And I tell them, don't, because that's what I told myself was, I'll go to those places after I graduate. And I'm like, well, now I need money for that. And possibly the school could have helped me do that.
Yep.
So do you end up having some of those conversations with your students?
Whenever they're on the fence, yeah, and it's always a matter of go now before you have a mortgage and student loan payments and all those sorts of things. But really, because you're doing it with the university, you're able to really be in a more structured environment and go to some different places that are going to be a little maybe non-touristy, because once you're in the working world, yeah, you can go to, London or wherever. But some of the places that we've been able to go and have had access to is quite remarkable, because we work with university partners all over the globe.
That's great. So yeah, another thing I'm hearing here is that I need to start taking advantage of DePaul student programs where I can maybe assist as a staff member.
Yeah. Basically, it's kind of like some of the stuff in Nakata. Just keep saying yes to things and they'll keep you in mind, and then you start to like snowball from there. So it's definitely a really cool opportunity that I know a lot of people haven't been able to have. And I know I'm lucky because I've got a very good, my wife is very supportive of being able to let me do those sorts of things and just kind of take off. But it's been a fun experience.
Well, and on that note of saying yes to things, a fine transition into how did you get to this Nakata position you're in now? Maybe let's start all the way back at how you became region chair and why.
Well, I'll take it back even before region chair. I remember I went to a regional conference and we had all of our different area and state meetings, and I walked into the room for Western Pennsylvania and it was me and one other person, and that was it. And we were kind of like looking around and they needed someone to run. So I'm like, oh, okay, sure, I'll run for it. And then it got into, hey, we want to have a regional conference in Pittsburgh. We need people. Okay, yeah, I'll bring my crew. I'll bring my staff and the people I work with, and it just kind of kept snowballing from there. And then it's always been really about timing, because as soon as the region conference was up, they were doing an election for region chair. Well, I worked really well with the region chairs during the planning of the conference, so let me see if I can help that, because that was one of the great preparations for being a chair. And then when that term is up, a council position comes up. So it's like, okay, well, I just want to, kind of keep the momentum, the forward momentum going, because there's so much, information that you learn, but so much that you're able to pass on after 2 years.
Yeah. And so it's one where you didn't really go in saying, I want to go and be in these positions. You kind of stumbled into it, or the opportunity came up and then you jumped to it.
Oh yeah, I totally kind of just stumbled in. I didn't really have any sort of big ideas of I want that position. It was just finding people who were involved and just working with them. To be honest, the first position I ran for in Nakata, I lost, and it was for an advising community chair. And the person who won that invited me onto the steering committee, and we're great friends. And being able to work with him, kind of see how the advising communities go, and where do I want to go with that track, it was valuable. So it was just kind of putting yourself out there and making sure say yes when opportunities arise.
That's such a story that a lot of us can sort of agree, share those experiences with, for how we got in.
Yeah.
I'm not used to stumbling into roles. I'm more used to stumbling out of places, but I'd love to add. Matt, feel free to edit that out. Now, with that, I'd be interested to know, what is it you enjoy most about the region division rep? Because it seems like so much responsibility. You guys do such a good job keeping us region chairs in order. We're doing a lot of stuff, but we're also having fun. So yeah. What do you like about being a division rep?
What I really like is kind of seeing all the different cultures of the regions, because I'm from Region 2. I've only been in positions within Region 2, but then starting to hear what goes on in the different neighboring regions, how they run their conferences, how they run some of their drive-in events, how they run their awards, and just hearing all the differences. Like, I didn't realize how different each one was, because I came in with this perception of, oh, well, everyone runs it like this. And that was really eye-opening, but it made me start to think like, okay, well, here's what we do in 2. Maybe we can apply that here, but that doesn't work in 2. Maybe, 1 can do that. And so all these different like little moving pieces were beneficial. And then obviously, like, as soon as I got on the council, there were a lot of cancellations because of COVID. So then it really became an opportunity to say, okay, well, let's take everything that everyone's doing really good and kind of merge that together in the virtual conferences and the combined conferences. And I think from that that combination that you had a lot of really good working groups that came about. And, they're talking about, like, do these regions want to have a joint conference down the road? And so, like, that's really cool to see, because, as we grow and as people kind of come out of the pandemic and want to travel more, there's a lot of really good opportunities that are out there. So it's kind of about finding those sort of, like, I view it like almost like an all-star team, those all-star matchups that can occur. It's really exciting. It's fun to see.
Yeah, and post pandemic, I mean, I guess we're kind of still in it, but
Yeah.
we're further out where we used to be. But yeah, it's kind of just being as creative as possible and kind of going with the flow with things. But what exactly does a regional division rep do?
It's you really get to work well with the executive office. So Ben Hopper is our go-to, and Stephanie Schrader, and then working with the other division rep. I came on with Karen Lewis and Kelly Medley, and now Leah from the University of Washington is who I'm working with, and it's the idea of just seeing where we need to make things aligned and seeing where regions are able to do their thing and help to give ideas, especially when it comes around time for, like, setting goals for each region, and finding ways to potentially push regions to, like, hey, have you thought about doing this, or hey, let's document this. So and as you guys know, that 2 years comes and goes so quickly that by the time you feel like you've got a handle on the job, you're voting someone to take your place. So it's about making sure people are able to hit the ground running, but setting goals that they're able to document and maybe parlay into year 2 or year 3 when they pass it on to somebody else.
That's really helpful. I can certainly understand the appeal of working with those all-stars, like you said.
Yeah.
I know I love, connecting and helping develop other advisors and whatnot. Well, if I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, where do you see yourself after this position? Elections.
I mean, elections are going on right now. I'm running for the board of directors. We'll see what happens with that. There's a great slate of candidates, and if I'm not elected to that, looking at, okay, well, how can I get more involved with the regions? How can I get more involved working with some certain different pockets of population? And for me, one thing that struck me very early on in Nakata was a region chair was talking about the value in the association isn't what you know, it's what you're willing to share. And so not necessarily being too big for a position, taking, smaller roles within the association, passing on knowledge, talking with new members about, oh, hey, here's what I did in this role, and here's, how you can modify it or change it. So I don't know. I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't have like a destination, like, oh, that is exactly where I want to be. Things will happen for a reason, and kind of seeing where this road takes me. I think, because at some points, there are certain positions that are very tough to come by. We'll see where it goes. I want to try to make sure to be involved with, annual conference when it is in Pittsburgh in 2024, whatever role that may be, and just kind of see where the next couple of years go with the association.
And I think listeners who might want to just get, they're interested in getting more involved. It's knowing that there's so many different ways. And I think, doing just say the annual conference, it's like, yeah, you have your co-chairs for the conference, but then you have all your subcommittee chairs, and then they have members within their subcommittees. So there's always something that someone can do to jump in.
And I mean, and Matt, as you know, there's so much support at the executive office level, but then there's also so many different opportunities for people to really, get involved, both on the forward facing and on the backside. I mean, part of it is just going through all proposals and trying to map out who's presenting where. Some of that stuff's like the kind of the fun puzzles that you see sometimes.
Yeah. Can I ask you this about, because you're doing an election, and then you have to do the 20, 30 second video. How difficult is it to sub up and try to, talk about yourself and what you want to do in 30 seconds?
30 seconds is not a lot of time. I would type it out, and it would take me about 37 takes to get one where I'm not swearing or just like, blah at the camera because I mess up. But then as you start to time it, it's like, that's not a lot of time. By the time you get through your name and where you're from, you're practically done. So I think it's just hitting on those one or two key points that you just want people to take away, and hope that they watch it, hope they watch it to the end. And for me, hope they spell my name right. And just making sure that, you're succinct with it, and making sure that people know exactly where you stand on certain topics. But 30 seconds is not a lot of time.
No, it's not. When I ran last year for region chair, I was unopposed, fortunately, but I had no idea what to do. So I made a song parody video that I'm happy to share with anybody at any time. It was gold.
Oh, we can put that in the show notes. We'll put the link there.
I'm kind of sad that it really wasn't necessary. How many people actually watched it since I was unopposed? So yeah, I want to get it out there. Well, thanks, Chris. Well, now I am interested because you do everything at such a high level. It seems to work out well. At least, I don't know what behind the scenes looks like. Can you share with us a little bit about how you manage the day-to-day of a demanding job as a director and such a high-profile Nakata position?
It's a lot of doing Nakata work during lunch a lot of times, and trying to be able to focus. I was not one of those students in college that was very good with time management. And so even today, I will read an email, then put it back and then read it again, and bouncing those. I think for me, it is just not procrastinating on things. When there is a project that we're working on, let's just get it done. And that is, something with my institution and with Nakata, making sure that the meetings are productive meetings, making sure that it's time for us to, identify what we need to do, when we need to do it, and who's going to do it. And taking a look at those aspects. The role that I'm in right now at Pitt is a newer role for me. I'm only a few months into the recruitment aspect of this job, and so it's kind of learning on the fly, but also trusting the people around who are the experts already, who have been doing this for years, and making sure that they've got the space to do what they need to do, but then they're supported behind it as well. And just trying to stay on top of everything. If it's not on my Outlook calendar, it doesn't exist, that sort of thing. And just trying to make sure that, nothing falls through the cracks. And I feel bad sometimes that it might feel like micromanaging people, but I'm asking questions just because I want to make sure that we're lockstep in terms of, I know what you need to do and what needs supporting.
Yeah, because sometimes if you don't ask those questions, and it's going to come back to you somehow.
Oh yeah, you can't assume. Yeah.
So you talked about being at Pitt. Can you talk? We talked about Nakata. I'm sure we're going to talk more about ELP, but can we talk more about your path, how you got to Pitt?
Oh, so from the bio, you heard my undergraduate degree, and it was in history and secondary ed. So going to college, thought I was going to be a social studies teacher for the rest of my life. And my first jobs out of college were there. I was working at a middle school and high school in Connecticut, and was liking it, but it was okay. And then my wife's job, she works in the finance industry, got moved out to Detroit, Michigan. So I spent a year out there teaching at an inner city charter school and coaching JV basketball. We were 0-11. It was fantastic. Every game was close, though. Every game was close. And then we got moved out to Pittsburgh, and it was time to just look at okay, well, what else is out there that's in education? And my I worked a lot with 8th graders and 9th graders. So that is a huge transition year for students. And I saw a job open up at the university here that was working with freshmen. And I'm like, well, 12th to 13th grade, that's a big transition as well. So I went in, interviewed, used my personality, and got the position. And for about a year, just solely worked with freshmen. And then transfer students were not a big priority for the university. And so since I was low man on the totem pole, I got the transfer population, kind of tacked onto my role. And I've loved working with them because I'm a big fan of, the non-traditional student, the underdog, the people who, kind of need support. And I was not a transfer student in college. And so now seeing the university experience through their lens was eye-opening to me in terms of what we do well and what we don't do well, and making sure we identify those and making sure people know at the highest of levels what we can do better, basically.
Wow, that is an interesting path. Sounds like you're really good at marketing yourself. Hey, this is how
It's a very winding path, yeah.
Well, now, so I have to assume that the position you're in now isn't quite as front-facing. Is that the case? And if not, do you miss being more,
It's not as front-facing with our current students. I kind of miss those aspects of being able to see students throughout their 2, 3, 4-year path. A lot of the work that I'll do right now is either transactional or in their working with in their first semester. So seeing that growth is a little something that I wish was more, but that's where, getting involved with other things on campus, the study abroad trips, help to kind of build those inter-student relationships, but also the relationships on this campus. We've got a lot of great advisors and a lot of great staff and faculty, and being able to work with them and create programs with them year after year is pretty cool.
Yeah, and do you still teach, or used to teach, a engineering student seminar?
So I teach a transfer seminar each semester for our new students, and that's I've tried to hand that off more and more to our peer mentors because, to be honest, that's who the students want to hear from. The students want to hear from other students and their experiences. So I still supervise our mentors and am in front of the classroom a little bit with them, but try to, as much as possible, to hand that off to the students, not because I don't want to be there, but because I think the students get more out from hearing it from their peers. Yeah.
This is a award-winning seminar, right?
Yeah, we won a Nugget Award from 2016 for advising programs. So that was a very proud moment for us. We do a lot and have done a lot just to get students equated to the entire campus. One of the things that we used to do, and I want to try to get it starting back up again, is, if you've never been to our campus in Pittsburgh, we're maybe 3 miles outside of downtown in a little community called Oakland. And what we will do is one of the first weekends of school, we will force all the transfer students and all the freshmen actually onto the city buses, and we all go downtown and we all go to a Pirates game and force them to use public transportation there and back, so they know how to get there and how to get back. And they're doing it in these large groups. And it's a really good way for them to kind of connect with each other and just kind of see the city, but also start to feel comfortable, because I'm a firm believer of where you go to school is going to be your home for, the 3, 4, 5 years, however long you're there. So you want to make sure that you're using all the resources that are available to you, both, on campus and off.
Okay, well, with mention of going to a Pirates game, that just, an image popped into my head of you in this amazing suit when you were at a social at Cincinnati Annual. Can you refresh me a little bit about what was on that suit?
Okay, so growing up in Connecticut, you've got to choose your allegiance between Boston and New York. So I am a very big Boston Red Sox fan. We've been to probably about 22 of the parks so far, trying to hit them all. And it's one of those things where it was a generational thing for me growing up. So baseball is my escape from the office, and hopefully, as long as the season can start on time, we typically will try to plan a vacation around like where they're going to be and kind of see it in a different part of the country. So, yep, big Red Sox fan. Yeah, sometimes it gets a little obsessive, but I got all the bobbleheads in the back to kind of prove it. But
fair enough. You're credentialed. We get it. And where does one get a head to toe suit representing their chosen team?
Apparently Amazon. That was a gag gift that I never ended up returning. But yeah, it was. I had to break that out just because they were playing at the time, and a couple of the people in the association who I know are big Yankee fans or not Red Sox fans. So yeah, you gotta represent and support. And if it means me, being the butt of a joke, I'll take it.
No, I appreciated it. I got to know you a lot better just seeing you in that. I was like, okay, now it's making sense. And I got to tell you, living in Chicago, being from St. Louis, there are a few things that give me more joy than wearing Cardinals things around here. So
See, that's taking your life in your own hands if you walk around the north side and Cardinal stuff. I'm sorry.
I'm a risk taker. Well, I suppose we can hop back to institutional advising type of things. Yeah. How would you describe the University of Pittsburgh?
So I would classify it two ways. I mean, we're a large research institution, 20,000 undergraduate students, but within the School of Engineering, we're a very small college. Since we're all housed in about one building, there's a really good way for students to gain a sense of community within their majors and within their years of class. So the way we try to recruit students with it is, we're a small college, we're a tight-knit college on a large university, so you get the best of both worlds. And then we're also a university that's in a small neighborhood of Oakland with lots of green space, but then you've got all the resources of the city 5 minutes down the road. So it's not that we necessarily have an identity crisis, but we've got a lot of different opportunities for students to, if you want to be in, the big city, if you want to be in a small college town, you can have either of those aspects. And for the educational aspect, if you want to learn Swahili, or if you want to take classes in all of these, different areas of study in the social sciences, we've got that. But then we've got these opportunities for you to really build connections with your faculty. So it's kind of the best of both worlds that we try to talk to students about. And we've got the sports, we've got all the all the drama and the cultural arts in and around. So we're very we hit a lot of different points for students.
And so as director, though, these last year or so, we've had a lot of institutions talk about like the Great Resignation and just changing of work schedules. Can I work remote? Am I going to always be on campus? Am I going to leave for a different interest? I've had friends that at this institution where I'm at, where I thought they were going to be lifers at this school, and they ended up going and doing something outside of higher ed. Yeah. How do you continue to support like your staff?
I think it's trusting them in that scheduling wise. We for a long time were fully remote. We're now in a hybrid model, so trusting people that when they need to be working remote, that they are going to work remote, giving them the opportunities to follow their passions or follow their interest areas of, what about this job do you like? Okay, well, let's let's draw that out a little bit more. So if it is, oh, you're really into building relationships with students, okay, well, let's take this mentoring program, or let's take this recruitment program for or even just like student outreach programs. Let's build that up a little bit more. So finding those areas that people are passionate about and just giving people the opportunity to cultivate those. Working in higher ed, the salaries are going to be what they're going to be. But at the end of the day, you've also got to be in a job where you're going to feel fulfilled. So it's making sure to, hit on all of those key points.
You sound like an excellent person to work for in that case. You totally get it.
Yeah. Well, and from my perspective, like one of the things that fulfills me is like being able to have the time in the workday or the leave time to do like the Nakata type things. That's, to me, that's important. So making sure that, I express that as well, and making sure that, people know where I see value and where, kind of where I want to get involved with it.
That's great. I mean, to have a boss that's, recognizes the value of Nakata, kind of trickles down, I think, to the rest of the staff and whatnot. Yeah. You mentioned earlier that, you all received that wonderful advising program award. I guess I'm interested to know, are there a lot of other folks on your campus that are that committed to Nakata, that they submit, for awards and stuff? Because I know that's an issue. There are campuses across the country that do great things, but if not everybody's involved or recognizes that value, they might not ever get that recognition.
I think, we have our jobs to do, and the Nakata type things, or the nominating for someone, or planning a session, this is the above and beyond. And it's not that people don't want to do it, but, we're busy. There are a lot of advisors who are very busy, a lot busier than me, 400, 500, 600 student caseloads. So saying, oh, hey, you're doing a great job, fill out all this information as well. It can sometimes feel like a little bit of a chore. So it's that seeing that it's not a chore. It's a way to be recognized. And I think, from the years that I've ever read for awards, the strong ones come from where institutions value advising and value their staff, and they have potentially like a staff award already on their campus. So then it's just taking that packet, modifying it, and submitting it for something else. And being able to see the value, really, you need that institutional support. And I mean, I hope that someday I'm nominating some of my staff or some of my colleagues here as well, because I think we do a good job. It's just a matter of finding the time and finding the words to kind of put the pen to paper and say, no, you deserve this type of award.
Yeah, really good boss. I think a lot of people listening are gonna be like, "Can I go work for Chris? He seems really
submit
cool."
Your resumes too. No, it's one of those things, and I mean, I'll tell you a story. So back when I was in college, one of the things that I did at my college was I was the mascot. And so I was the person at the basketball games and hockey games jumping around. And to earn money over the summer, I worked for a minor league baseball team, and I was the mascot for them. And it was a paid position, but you had to do all the stuff pregame and setting up the stadium and all those aspects. And I remember distinctly one day going in at about like 7 a.m. It was after a night game, so everyone's tired, and the general manager told me, the general manager of like the whole organization was like, hey, we need the interns. We need you to go out to the bleachers and clean them off, all the seagulls and all that stuff. So you're cleaning up crap. And no one wanted to do it, but hey, we're getting paid. So I'll grab my rag, go out there. And about 2 minutes later, he's out joining us. And he's out there scrubbing it with us. And that was powerful to me. And he gave me a piece of advice. He said, Chris, never ask someone to do a job you're not willing to do yourself. And that has always stuck with me of whoever I work with, I have to be able to walk in their shoes and support them in that way. So that was something that has just stuck with me. It was a simple lesson on a Saturday morning back when I was in college, but it really, for me, defined what leadership is, because you have to make sure you're leading from the front.
You're really putting Matt to task here, I think, with like what quote he's going to pull out of this.
That's exactly. I was making a note right now, going, because there was something Chris said earlier. I was like, okay, write this down.
It's not what the value isn't what you put into the association, but what you're willing to share, something like that. First, I was like, that's gold, and then there was another gold nugget. Oh my god!
Yeah, when he was talking about being the underdog, I was like, okay, let me write that, and then now I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be this one now.
This man, oh my gosh! But Mascot, I mean, you've got the fun fact like ammo for any time that comes up. Like, I was a mascot, and now I'm foreseeing, okay, ladies and gentlemen, if Chris is not elected to the board of directors, I think we're going to have a Nakata mascot in the future. And I'm looking at Matt as someone that would probably be good to help design exactly what that's supposed to look like. This is fun stuff, guys. Fun stuff.
I'll help design it, and then Chris can wear it.
I'm just trying to think of what would it even be. I mean,
well, it's like the EAV mascot is just that circle with EAV on it.
There you go. Or just Charlie Nutt. Just he lives on.
See, you got to get a tall one though, because depending on if you ever go to like Disney World or Disneyland, like the person who plays Goofy can't play Chippendale, so you have to kind of figure out what's the size of it going to be. Is
there a photo that you have of you as a mascot that you can send to us?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we were the first 2 years. Okay, so it's Providence College. We're the Friars. For those of you, your listeners who don't know, a friar is a monk. So the first 2 years, it was like a Dalmatian dog. It was a thing that was based on the order of preachers of the university. But then they wanted something more marketable, so they went to a friar type outfit in junior year, and this thing was a cross between like Ted Kennedy and I don't know, but it was bloated out with hair. It was awful. So then senior year, so we got a different one with the big hood and everything, and it was wild. It was like every single year it was changing up a little bit, but yeah.
I'm envisioning Ted Kennedy and Quasimodo combined.
A little bit, yeah. I'll send you some links and some pictures, because it was just what a time to be alive. But I mean, it was also a really kind of fun experience, because you got to go to games, but then travel to tournaments, and there was a little element of secrecy with it, and you could kind of no one can see who you are, so you just do whatever you want to do, and it was a lot of fun.
That element of secrecy, like you were the Masked Singer or something, right?
Yes, exactly. And you can't talk, so you can't get in trouble, so you just gotta do your thing. Man, we took a left turn here. I'm sorry.
We did, but we wanted to know the man behind.
This is what we like. We like these stories.
That's huge. I know Chris so much more now. I thought the Red Sox suit said something, but the marketable friar. Oh my gosh. Oh, where do we go from here?
I don't know.
How do we contact Chris for more stories, right?
It only took how many episodes to stump you? Okay.
Yeah. Or listeners are just have Chris on and just give random stories.
Just fun facts with Chris. Yep.
I guess we could talk about ELP. I don't know. It's not the best transition, but
oh. So yeah, I mean, I'm a mentor for ELP. My mentee Leah works at the University, Washington University in St. Louis, and she's a rock star. So I feel like she's my mentor sometimes in terms of just in being able to interact with students and kind of finding your passion with the profession. And ELP was something, to be quite honest, for the first many years in the association, I just never kind of thought I would do. But being able to be a part of it has been a really cool experience, just to kind of put me outside my comfort zone and kind of get to know other people. I like the aspect of, you're meeting other people who you may not be associated with, and you're kind of helping well, here was my path. You can try your own different path, because I think we all get in a rut where when you've been to a bunch of conferences or you've been involved in the Mikado for a while, like you have your group, you've got your people that you look forward to seeing at conferences. And it's good to sometimes break out of that a little bit and meet other people. And so that was one of the fun parts of EOP for me.
Yeah, we have a little quote here from you, an article about EOP, and I look forward to working with the new class of mentees and learning more about what the next wave of academic advisors and leaders are working on at their campuses. So I think that quote just sums up what you just answered.
Hey, all right. At least I wrote it then, so that's good.
And if I may, I don't mean to be redundant here. Most of our listeners know, but ELP is, of course, the Emerging Leaders Program.
Correct.
And then, Chris, were you a mentee in that before, or did you just go straight to mentor?
I just jumped straight to mentor. It's not that I applied and was rejected. It was just I was at a point where I was kind of doing my thing within the association, kind of building up from there. So, yeah.
That is very cool. Very cool.
And as we wind down, I have another, not a quote from you, but I was on Reddit trying to get prep for this, and there's actually, I'm assuming this is a student, but they name dropped you in there.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. I stay off of Rate My Professor. I stay off of Reddit. Oh God. I am not very active on social media. So,
But they were talking about how they took an intro to engineering design, and they said it was tough, and that they talk about prerequisites and things like that. And I'm assuming, based off how it was written, that maybe they were like a transfer student, and maybe there was like some prerequisites that they didn't take at their previous school before going to Pitt. But essentially, they were saying that you might get. You want to get help, go and ask Chris Kirchhof, and they had a link to your, your staff contact info from the website. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, when you start dealing with the depths of the internet, I get a little scared there for a second. The students who I get to work with, especially from the transfer side of things, they're a great bunch of students. It's just a matter of helping them navigate through the things that people assume they already know.
That's very well said. I as a first generation student at my first job, I created like a campus lingo web page that I sometimes forget how important that might still be, even though I'm at a bigger university now. There are some things that, why would you know that if nobody ever told you, and if you're the first one to chart that path?
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you're institutions like ours, we use so many different abbreviations for things. And there are so many. There's abbreviations that have overlapped with NACADA. Now we have an experiential learning and professional engagement office, which is ELPE. And I'm like, wait, ELP? Oh no, ELPE. Okay. Learning those acronyms and making sure students are assured there's no such thing as a dumb question. Like, feel free to ask, because you're not supposed to know everything. And there are probably some seniors out there who don't know everything. So, just ask, always ask.
Although sometimes we expect them to know everything at orientation once we dump a whole bunch of information on them in a few hours.
I always refer to that as like trying to grab a drink of water from a fire hydrant. I mean, you can't expect them to know everything. It's a lot. It's a lot that comes really quick.
Yet another gem from Chris, trying to grab a drink of water from a hot fire. That's what I'm going to use for my argument for a flipped orientation that I'm trying to push here at DePaul.
There you
It's
go.
almost like you need a delayed orientation. It's like, okay, now that you've been here, now here's the real stuff you need to know. Yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder if anybody's doing that. Orientation follow-up, orientation part 2,
And are they calling it a delayed orientation? I think you need to trademark that.
I'll get my lawyers on it.
But this was a fun interview. I enjoyed it, especially the mascot story. So, but if anyone's listening that has any questions or wants to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Best way is probably my email at the university. It's CHK63, which is C as in Charlie, H as in hotel, K as in kilo, 63 at pitt.edu. And I know that because I always keep the phonetic alphabet right above my screen. So whenever I have to give anybody names, it's like, okay, yeah, Whiskey Sierra, But CHK63 at pitt.edu is my contact info. You can probably also find me somewhere on the Nakata website with some contact info as well. Those are the spaces that I live in.
And he gives us the email address, but then gives us another tidbit, a little nugget of knowledge there of how we can easily refer and be able to throw out names and we're doing the letters. So appreciate it, Chris. Thanks so much.
I've learned so much. Learned so much today, Chris. Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks.